Hello everyone, Nick here, and I'm back with another episode of Fanfiction for today. I'm sorry for the long wait. I've been really busy with a lot of stuff. It's kind of kept me away. But I'm back now with the newest episode, and you might notice I'm not in my usual setup. This episode I'm actually changing my setup because as my good friend and TheAlmightyUltimix is actually helping me with this, and I would honestly just like to thank him for that. So this fanfiction is another one from TheAlmightyUltimix. It's another Phineas. It's based on a one called The Hunt. The summary of it basically was late at night, armed gunmen break into the Flynn household. That's actually not the entire summary, but if I actually said anything else, I'd be giving away too much. And this is honestly one of my favourite fanfictions from TheAlmightyUltimix. Yeah, let's just get into it. It was a quiet and peaceful night in the small town of Danville, even though it was late. Phineas and Isabella Flynn were still awake. A happily married couple were cuddling closely in the warmth of their bed. Both of them were simply lying together, eyes half-lidded, not talking, just simply enjoying being next to each other. Phineas craned his neck down and gently kissed his wife's forehead. "Ed, I'm going to get a glass of water. Would you like anything?" he whispered into her ear. "Only for you to hurry back," Isabella replied, leaning in and kissed Phineas's lips. He laughed softly and slipped out from under the covers of the bed. The cooler air bit his skin as he stood to his full 6'1" height. He slipped on a pair of boxers and his housecoat before making his way down to the first floor. At the bottom of the stairs, Phineas paused slightly. He looked around into his house and felt a sense of pride. Even with being the Einstein of his time and a multi-millionaire, he still chose to live in a small suburban household like the one he and his best friend Ferb lived in as children. It was going to be the perfect place to raise their little girl. Putting the feeling aside, he turned left into his kitchen. Without a sound, 5 men appeared from the shadows of his living room. Each of them was dressed head to toe in black and armed with guns. They moved silently as they appeared to the doorway into the kitchen. The leader of them crouched behind the door frame. He motioned to one of his companions, who took out a pistol with a silencer attached to it. With a final nod, the man with the pistol rushed into the kitchen, followed by the others, and found the room empty. Confusion swept through all of them until a dull thud sound behind them. They spun around to see one of their team members on the floor, dead from the kitchen knife buried in the back of his skull. The lights in the kitchen suddenly shut off, and the 4 remaining men were plunged into darkness. They scrambled to pull on their night vision goggles, but once they were all activated, there was only 3 of them in the room. There was a soft crack, and suddenly their missing companion was strolling through the doorway at their feet with an obvious broken neck. "Defensive circle," the leader whispered. But the second he turned his back, he heard the muffled scream of one of his other teammates, and when he turned around, he only managed to see his feet disappearing into the living room. The last 2 scrambled after him, only to find that their companion and his attacker had vanished into the darkness. Panic welled up in the leader. In less than 2 minutes, more than half his team was gone. He turned back to his last remaining teammate, only to find that he was completely alone. His panic levels increased as he pulled out of his own pistol from his holster and desperately checked all around him. When he couldn't find anything, he decided to cut his losses and search for the front door. Finally, he spotted the door, illuminated by the small window beside it, and made a dash for it. Just as his fingers grazed the doorknob, he suddenly felt a thin metal cord wrap around his throat. His hand shot to his neck as he tried to pull it off, but it was too small and sliced into his skin. In half a minute, his struggles ceased and his killer let the lifeless body drop to the ground. Out from the shadows stepped Phineas, the bloody metal wire still clutched in his hand. He stared down at the body for a few seconds before he reached over and flipped the light switch beside the door, which bathed the room in light. Phineas sighed. The blood had already started to trickle down the man's neck and onto the floor or under him. Good thing he died in the small tiled area in front of the door, or he'd be stuck cleaning the carpet again. He simply pulled the man's shirt up slightly, bunching it around his neck to stop any excess blood from dripping out, and carried the body down to the basement. A couple minutes later, he had all the bodies down but first, and casually started stripping all men of their weapons and stealth equipment. A quick look at all the pieces told Phineas that they were all quality pieces. So he placed them on a nearby workbench. Phineas hummed a little tune to himself as he hit a concealed button under the bench and watched the concrete slabs of the floor silently lift up. After that, he began throwing the bodies into the small chamber of black metal. I should really clean this out one day. It used to be chrome when I first installed it. He mused to himself while he pressed the button again, and the slabs lowered back to the floor. Phineas's ears caught the faintest whooshing sound as the incinerator quickly reduced the bodies to ashes. Now comes the boring part. Phineas rummaged through some of the boxes piled around the room, and before he found the one he was looking for, and pulled an exact replica of the knife he used to kill the first man. He stashed the gear, he took off the others, was into another box, and left the basement. Going back upstairs, he cleaned up the bloody messes and placed the replacement knife in the drawer. The redhead had yawned tiredly, getting the glass of water he had originally came for. He took the glass all in one go and then headed up the stairs to his bedroom. On the way there, he passed by the door to his daughter's room. Quietly, he opened the door and slipped inside to see his baby girl. He couldn't help smiling down at his daughter sleeping soundly in her crib. Gently reaching, picking her up, he cradled the baby in his arm, rocking her side to side. "Don't worry, baby girl. Daddy will always keep you safe." He kissed her head and set her back down. Phineas closed the door and quickly walked back to his own room. Isabella woke up when she felt her husband sliding back into the bed, having fallen asleep while he was gone. "What took you so long? Did you get the water from Niagara Falls?" Well, she asked, though she wouldn't have doubted the possibility that he had. "No," he chuckled. "Just solved a little problem. I'm sorry I kept you waiting." He shed his attire and slid back into the bed with her. "That's okay," she nuzzled her head into his chest, feeling his warm press up against hers again. "Good night, Phineas." He hummed as he closed his eyes. "Good night, love." And that was The Hunt. And yeah, like I said, it is one of my favorite fanfictions from TheAlmightyUltimix. Probably due to how different it is from other Phineas and Ferb fanfictions. And that's actually the style of TheAlmightyUltimix. Instead prefers to write them differently, eat them what people normally do, write them like. He actually has an explanation as to why he's not on his accounts, and although if I went into read it, that would take forever. There's an explanation as to the backstory of this here at the bottom. It says that the men that broke into the house were supposed to be mercenaries that were hired by a member of Phineas's board of executives from his company. For starters, I gotta say, congratulations to Phineas for being the head of a company. He reminded that Phineas would be the type of person who would do the right thing over making money, and yeah, that does make sense. However, one person didn't share his morality and wanted him killed so that someone else could be put in charge who would do whatever made them more money. And so that happened. Yeah, that does seem like a legit explanation as to why mercenaries were inside his house. I just imagine like the next day, like Phineas might arrive late at his job, the guy's just snickering to himself thinking that his plan succeeded, and then all of a sudden he just sees he's Phineas walking in because he was late for traffic. I just imagine what that guy's reaction would be. Yeah, it's honestly a good fanfiction, and I enjoy reading it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!